everybody. Welcome to episode 32 of Destination Talk. I'm John Paz.
And I am Harry, and we are coming to you again from Chop Studios, located at 750 Route 34 in Mattawan, New Jersey. And today we are joined by former University of Nebraska Track and Field athlete and former All-American Michael Hoffer. Mike, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to join us. How's everything going today?
It's going great. I'm glad you guys are having me on the show, and it's nice to meet you guys.
Well, same here, and we welcome you aboard, and thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit about your story. So why don't we start there? Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of who Mike is and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I guess I'll start kind of on the track side. I've been doing track and field, I believe, since 7th grade. I was a multi-sport athlete. I tried to do everything I could from football, wrestling, basketball. I wasn't that good at wrestling, but that's why we're in track and field. But I used that as something that I really needed for myself at a time of growing up with a lot of adversity. Had to handle a bunch of different things in my life, and track and field was that outlet for me. And because I had that outlet, I was able to excel because I put all of myself into it, and it led me to some great opportunities at state and track field meets at the national level, leading me to Nebraska. And like you mentioned, ending off my career at Nebraska as an All-American. So now I'm able to give back to that sport in the coaching atmosphere at a private facility here in Lincoln, Nebraska called Track Field. And then I also have the great opportunity of being an assistant coach at Doane this year, which I'm really looking forward to. And short, that's a little bit about me.
I noticed that you had announced that very recently, so congratulations on that new position at Doane.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you went to Shawnee Heights High School, and that's a familiar place for us because back in episode 22, we had Coach Chad Parks on the show. A wonderful interview that we had. And if you haven't seen that episode out there, please go back and check it out to our listeners. So can you tell us a little bit about life at Shawnee Heights for you?
Yeah, Shawnee Heights will always hold a special place in my heart. I would give everything to my development as an athlete, and not only an athlete, but myself as a human being, to my coaches there. Chad Parks being one of them, Brad Nix, Coach Swift, Bob Wells. All these guys not only shaped me how to work hard, but how to carry myself as an individual. And at Shawnee Heights, when I lost my mother to cancer, the whole entire community just surrounded me. And I felt like I never lost family because I had a big group of people that were always supporting me. And looking back at it, that entire community, whether it was my friends in school or coaches, is something I'm always going to look back fond on. So forever a T-Bird. I love everything about Shawnee Heights and everything that I had to, or everyone that I met while I was there. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you said you played multiple sports growing up. What was one of your favorite memories while competing at Shawnee High School?
To be honest, there's so many, and I'm grateful that I have a lot of moments like that. Big football guy, and when you think of football, you think of getting gritty with your brothers in the trenches. You think of hitting each other. You think of Friday Night Lights and things like that. And I'm glad I had the experience of being able to win games with my teammates, to the ability of winning state championships with my basketball teammates, as well as track and field. So I've had the ability to be under a lot of pressure with a bunch of guys that were doing it for the first time. And when you're doing that, it's easy to bond with people. And some of my favorite moments, I would say if I were to pick out one, especially on the track and field side, my last year, Shawnee Heights used to be known for the 4x4. They would always be in the top 3 or at least win every year. And we had a group of seniors that went out. So we were kind of rebuilding with all these guys. And I decided to torture myself and be on the 4x4 as well, and grew up with all of those guys up to our senior year. And the previous 2 years, or let me go back. The first group that went out that next year, we didn't make finals until the next following year. And then that year we only placed top 3, and we were trying to get back on that podium. In our senior year, we were able to win at state. And I think that meant a lot to all of us just because of the amount of work and how much our coach put the value on that as a team and as a legacy, though. So that for me is one of my favorite moments, because all of us just tired holding each other at the end of the meet, just seeing the fruit of our hard work happen is something that's super special.
Awesome.
Mike, as you were going through your journey at Shawnee Heights and your 4 years of high school, at what point did you realize there was an opportunity for you to compete at the next level in a specific sport, or in this case, track and field?
I was a sophomore in high school, or I guess we can start off as a freshman. At this point, I jumped 5, 10, or 11 in 8th grade, and I knew that I was pretty decent at it. But going into high school, it's scary because, you know, everyone seems so big to you. And I remember coming into practice, and I had some older teammates, and I said, "Yeah, I've jumped 5'10". And they're like, "Sure, sure, sure." First meet 5'10", second meet 6'4", and I remember my coach looking at me being like, "You should not be in a JV meet anymore. Like, we should take this really seriously." And the next year, I ended up jumping 6'10" towards the end of the season, and that's when the college offers start to flood in as a sophomore. And following into that summer, I would go on to win AAU nationals. And there's some big names there like Kyle Garland and Matthew Bowling at the time, who are also just young kids going into it. And looking back on it, that moment is what really defined, like, okay, this is really serious. Not so much like my life's on the line, but this is something I really should be more serious about, and something I could look forward to going to college. And I know that I always wanted to be a college athlete. I think at that time I knew, like, this is what's going to be my thing.
Awesome. So a big thing that we talk about on this podcast is the recruiting process and recruiting as a whole. So you kind of mentioned that, you know, your sophomore year you got recruited. What did that process look like for you, and how did you get on the radar? What were like some of the events you had to go to? Can you talk a little bit about recruiting?
Yes, of course. To start off, my first initial offer came through that meet. So my club coach received a call from Stanford. It was like, "Hey, we're really interested in this kid." And that's what kicked it all off. And I remember being so kind of excited, but also a little bit scared, because, you know, I'm like, "Oh, I don't really know what I need to do. I don't know how to talk to these coaches." So first off, my first initial impression was, I'm going to need to learn how to speak to people. I'm going to need to learn how to, like, carry myself better. Like, I'm no longer being a kid as much. Like, I have something that I need to uphold as a responsibility as not only an athlete, but as a student. But for me, putting myself out there to go into it, we put all of my marks out online for coaches to see. And we utilized a program called NCSA, which is basically, if you guys have probably heard about it, but it's basically like a huge profile network for athletes, where coaches can go see, you know, your height, your GPA, your personal bests, and it filters you out based among your marks to those coaches, and kind of levels you out to what level you can go to. And I was fortunate enough to have a coach through that program too, that would help talk me through meeting with coaches, her being a previous athlete herself. So I'd have some one-on-one help there as well. But I would get letters through the mail at school, and I'd see the giant logo on the envelope. And that's probably one of the most intimidating things and exciting things as an athlete. But because of the mark that I got at the time, it was pretty decent. I was seen as kind of a prospect at a young age to have that high of a mark. So I'd get a lot of mail at school. But me being like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, I thought this was super exciting, but I didn't really know where to go about it. And lucky enough, my coach just kind of pointed me in every direction to say, you know, you never want to like close yourself off to any school or any opportunity. Like it might seem overwhelming, but taking the time to just look at each one, because you'll never know. And in that process, I learned that it was a lot, but it was also so exciting. So we went through every piece of mail, every phone call, and we took it as a first time opportunity, because that's what it was. It was first time opportunity. And we had a grateful heart to be like, wow, this is amazing that I have this opportunity to even talk to these coaches. That was the mindset that my grandparents installed into me and my coaches. And we went from there. So
sounds like a mindset that Coach Parks may have played an influence on, with that get-to mentality that he talks about. He shared that with us on our podcast when we interviewed him.
100%. Yes. I have a funny story. It's really quick, but Coach Parks was my 8th grade football coach. And I remember a bunch of, and I mean, we're kids at this point, but he's trying to, create men, right? Or create leaders. And I remember we were messing around in practice. We weren't listening. I don't know exactly what was happening, but I know he got pretty mad, threw his whistle, and we all just stand there still like frozen. And I think that was the first moment I was like, oh, wow, like we can't mess around anymore. And I just remember the speech being like, if you guys want anything in life, you have to stay disciplined, and you have to have a grateful mindset that you have the privilege of being here to do this, because not everybody does. And Chad Parks, man, he is such an inspiration of a person. So that's just one little moment, even as a kid, that I still remember at practice. So
you were going to add something to
I was gonna talk about the letters. I remember I got my first letters from Lehigh.
Okay,
that was really cool. But no, that story about Coach Chad Parks, I had similar stories growing up. It's all about discipline and putting everything in one direction. Yeah.
Yes,
I agree.
So, Mike, as these letters were coming in and you were going through them, and then I would imagine there were some schools being checked off and being moved into different piles, how did you ultimately settle on going to Nebraska?
So, and this story is kind of interesting too. I grew up a diehard Wildcat fan, Kansas State, and at the time, Kansas State was really well known for the high jump program. Cliff Rivelto and all of those guys. They really know how to develop some really amazing jumpers, but it didn't really pan out that way. I reached out to them several times and went on a visit, and it was great. But then found the Nebraska questionnaire that I got in my mail that I actually haven't filled out yet. So I actually didn't know too much about Nebraska at all until maybe December or January of my senior year. And my grandma looks at me and says, you should fill this out and send it. Like, you'll never know. And at this point, I went on a couple official visits, and I was like, okay, yeah, it wouldn't hurt. And ended up going on the visit, meeting Dusty Jonas, meeting the entire Nebraska staff, and just everything Nebraska had to offer. And we were sold immediately. And I was sold as soon as I stepped on campus. Just the not only the atmosphere they had as a school, but like all of the facilities that they had to offer, and how serious they took athletics as well as academics. I think, it was just my visit that really just sold me, and the rest was history there.
I've been in Nebraska a couple of times, and the facilities there are beautiful. Really, really cool.
You wrestled there, right?
Oh yeah, I wrestled there. Not just for dual meets, but for freestyle events too.
Okay.
But the facilities there are awesome. It's in the middle of nowhere, though, I will say. Being from Jersey, it's the Midwest.
Yeah, John doesn't have high marks for the Midwest. I'm trying to convince him, although I've never really been out there myself. I'm trying to convince him that there's a lot of good out there. You're just gonna,
I've been to Nebraska probably about 9 times in my life, probably more than I've been anywhere else in the country.
I hope I'm getting this right, but I think Lenny Pinto, who wrestled at Nebraska, is now at Rutgers.
Correct. Yeah.
So Nebraska went to Rutgers. So we went from the Midwest to the East Coast over here this upcoming season.
So, what would you say the biggest adjustment was when you were going from high school competitions into college? And what that whole transition was like for you?
That's a great question. So being in high school with the marks that I was jumping at the time, the biggest difference is I would be coming in when almost everybody was out. And I would say this is true for most jumpers that are jumping at that level. My friend Tyus Wilson, he just won the USA Championship, which is absolutely incredible. But him and I would talk about this when he came in as a freshman and I was an upperclassman at Nebraska. You have a mindset that you're really, really good in high school. And then you go into college and you realize that everybody's good. And it's no longer like I can't come into this meet thinking that I'm going to win this easy or like it's expected of me. You go into this meet knowing that it's going to be a battle every single time because everybody else is devoting their everything to the sport as well. So that coming to the sport with a sense of humility and understanding that it's not given to you at any point. It was a total change of mindset, especially it really turns you from being a kid into being a young man to understand that like, and then we talk about that get to mentality. It's like, I get to be here. So I know that I have to put in that work if I want to see any results and I did, that was true in high school as well, but it's a total different level because like I said, everybody is really, really good. So
one of the questions that we tend to ask our guests, especially those who have gone on to compete in college, especially at the Division I level, is to help explain a little bit to our audience, those athletes and families that are out there that don't quite understand just how much of a full-time job it is to be a collegiate athlete, especially when you're at the highest level. So how were you able to balance the academics, the athletic, and the social side of what was required to be at Nebraska?
I was very fortunate to have an amazing academic staff. And if I was struggling in any course or class that I had, we had the ability to get a tutor immediately. And that is something that I'm going to be like, shout out Nebraska for that, because that is something that for me helped me out so much. But it all comes down to time management. And I think for me, it was as simple as writing it down in a planner or having some kind of platform to kind of see your overview of everything. And the nice thing is Nebraska would kind of lay that out for you. But understanding your priorities is most important. And for me, I think it kind of trickles down from the top. And for me, it's my faith in Christ leading down to taking care of myself are the top two, and my family. And then everything else would go from, okay, what are my responsibilities? I know that my responsibilities are academics. I know my responsibilities is being a great athlete. How am I going to portion these out so I don't get burnt out? And that is a really hard question. And the truth is you just don't want to pour yourself so far into one portion, because then you won't have anything else to give to the rest. So being able to just equally pour yourself into what you need to get done is really crucial. And I would say that that's more of a skill that you have to adapt to, and that every athlete has to adapt to in order to really be efficient in everything they want. So yeah, like I said, I was very fortunate to have a really amazing academic staff, but just making sure that you're taking care of your body and taking care of your responsibilities, to keep ranting on, like your nutrition, getting good sleep, drinking lots of water, so you have a clear mindset, and then being able to section out time. I have practice at this time. I know that I need to do my work at this time. I know that I have this thing tomorrow. I probably shouldn't stay out late. It's just a lot of give and take.
Gotcha.
Yeah, especially when you have to be responsible for that, because there's no one kind of holding your hand. You have to be the one who makes those decisions yourself.
Correct. Yes.
I really like the planner planner thing you said, because both Harry and I, we would talk about this all the time. We both have planners where we write out everything we're doing throughout the day, and I did all through college as well. I still do it now. And Harry does it every single day as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot more technology out there, but I'm a pen to paper guy. I tend to relate much better to seeing it as opposed to just looking it up on my phone.
yeah,
Me
and I
too.
think that's something little that everybody needs to use more just in life, not just in sports, you know.
I don't want to speak for you, Mike, but I think it holds you to a level of accountability. If it's written down, there's a better chance that you're going to follow through on it.
Correct. Absolutely. I got this thing at Target. I'll show you guys. I use this for work, but I have a timeline of every single time of the day, and I have a little section for my workout, what I'm going to eat, what's my priorities, who I need to call. And like for me, looking at this snapshot kind of helps just simplify everything in my brain to be like, this is what I need to get done. And that might be kind of like an athlete thing, like you mentioned. Like we're just so used to having sections of our day that we need to like do every day, so we know we need to work around it. And but like you said, for life too, I think for me, that's how I've utilized what I did through college, and now I use that for my everyday life. And it's definitely key to staying efficient and just getting stuff done.
Everything organized and your priorities straight. I agree. So you talked about your favorite memory back in high school. What would be your favorite memory in college at Nebraska that you had?
Also a lot. I guess just to spread it out, an arching memory that I have, and this is just super simple, is just the everyday practices that I would have with my teammates. It was like jumping with your best friends every day, just coming to practice and joking around and being able to do something that you guys are so like-minded in, but also just being able to be free and be yourself and have fun. So that's something that I really miss, is just that community, that kind of brotherhood, sisterhood, teammates that I had. But a really exciting memory that I can share is my freshman year. We were going into our indoor track meet. This was my first Big Ten championship. And I knew from what the coaches were telling us is that this was going to be a head-to-head outlook for this meet. We have a chance to win this meet. We're going to go back to head-to-head with Indiana. Iowa's like hovering right behind us. And every event matters. Every point matters. And my freshman year, I was dealing with some severe patella tendinopathy, but I was a very huge hardhead, and I didn't believe in injuries and proper recovery at the time. So I said, I'm good to go. I wrapped my knee up and I jumped, and I was able to get 3 points. And we won the meet by, I believe, like 1.5 or 2. And I didn't jump very high. I wasn't close to my personal best, but I just had so much excitement, and I look back at that moment as a moment of having to overcome, even though I had a lot of odds against me. And I was so happy that I was able to provide for the team, and we won that. It was just a huge, exciting party right after winning, your first Big Ten championship. And that's one of many moments, but just it coming down to the line and then saying that I was able to give what I had, even though I didn't have a lot to give, and it's still like panning out. That's something that, you look back on, you're like, oh my gosh, thank God that I was able to follow through. Even when things were getting hard, I still went through and I didn't give up, and it paid out in full.
So, Mike, following up on what you just said, you had mentioned earlier you had to deal with a personal situation with the loss of your mom, and now this injury that you did incur. If I'm not mistaken, you missed a year of competition, if I remember correctly from what I read. So, how were you able to take these personal challenges that you were faced with and then bring it together and channel it into energy to move forward?
I owe all that I have to Christ and my community of people that surrounded me, and I owe a lot to myself on not giving up. And in brief, I lost my mother in high school. Coach Lance, right after I won nationals, passed away in a car wreck a week later. And my father passed away my second or third year of college. Not to raise those up as like, look at me, but as a, that weight got heavy. It started to stack on. And especially when you're being an athlete and it's so mentally taxing, it definitely weighed really heavy on my heart. But because I had a strong community and I also had my faith, I was able to hold on strong to know that even in these hard times, I know that I can be content because I know that if I just keep going forward, that I am going to be just fine. And my relationship with Christ through track and field or anything in life, I was able to see that even in these darkest like moments, there's still light. And that light could be the joy of, like I said, hanging out with my teammates, winning a championship, or even like the mundane of just going to class every day, like that get to mentality. I think if anything, that just reinforced my get to mentality is like, life's short. I get to do this. And that's what I would wake up every day is like, I get to be here. This is a privilege. It just reinforced it. And so for me, that little mantra is what helped me get through each day and has built who I am today.
I can unfortunately relate in some ways to your story because in 2017, personally myself, in a 5-month stretch, I lost both my mom and dad. And I had a friend who was killed in a vehicular accident as well. And it just seemed like every day at that point was there ever going to be good news, so to speak? And when you got to the end of that, you were like, it can't get any worse. And I just remember just saying to myself, this is as bad as it's going to get. There's probably still people out there far worse off than I am at this moment because I still have the ability to do things. And, I think to your point, it was just knowing that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. It was just a matter of being patient to get there, even though you can't quite see it in that moment because it seems like everything's very dark.
Exactly. I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, but thank you. And likewise to you as well. But I think it's what shaped me. It's made me tougher. It certainly has helped me get to where I am right now. It's hard to believe that it's been 8 years already that all of that happened, but it could feel like just yesterday at times.
I agree.
So you talked a little about Coach Chad Parks having that get to mentality.
Yeah, get to mentality.
And you talked about how he wanted to shape leaders. How did your leadership skills over the years grow into who you are now?
I would say just the reinforcement of having amazing coaches. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm choosing to coach today is those men and women that were in my life that have shaped me, taught me the importance of, and you've heard them before, but hard work, humility, being consistent, being disciplined, all those things that you see on a high school wall, but then taking them seriously. And some name shout outs like Coach Nix, who used to be at Shawnee Heights, but he's now in Abilene in Kansas, was someone that I truly believed in the essence of everything that sports has, of like becoming a better person, working hard, the grit, the hard days, the easy day, like everything that sports has to offer that teaches you about life. He was able to convey that to at least me and a lot of other athletes on how that directly relates to life. And I think that just really impacted me. I really bought into the program, whether it was football or track and field, and even basketball. I learned how to buy in. And in anything, you learn that you need to buy in. If you're going to be good at anything, or if you want to excel in anything, you have to buy in. And starting off with that and what it means to be a leader, I've been very fortunate enough to have that conversation, not only with Coach Nix, Parks, whoever, Coach Swift, Bob Wells, my high jump coach. They always talk about the importance of character and how we hold ourselves. And that is something that has been totally reinforced in me. And I carry that with me going forward, knowing that I have an important part as a person to play with those around me, to lead them on how they should carry their everyday lives, whether that's being a teammate, a coach, or a person. You understand that I wouldn't say there's a target on your head, but you have a responsibility as a person, like we continue to say, is that I get to do this. And if you live that out yourself, it's really easy to kind of spread that out to everybody else. It's not so much about like, you need to do this. It's like, I'm going to live this out myself and be that person, that character for you, so it can spread out to everybody else.
Mike, you had the opportunity to be an All-American in your senior season. Can you speak a little bit about to what that moment meant for you and how all that hard work and overcoming all the adversity kind of culminated in that one moment?
That was a very, very emotional and amazing moment to have finally achieved that, especially going in. I created all of these goals for myself as a high schooler. And as every high schooler, you shoot for the stars. And, you know, you want to be a national champion, Big Ten champion, all these things. And I know each year I said, I'm going to be an NCAA All-American, and an injury or some kind of setback would happen. And there was moments where I got really dark and really hard for me to be like, is this for me? Like, will this ever happen? I'm putting all the hard work in. But I just had a little voice and a great amount of people around me saying, just keep going, keep pushing. It will come. It will come. And being able to be there and finish where I did at the end of my career was amazing. And it also just showed how great God is, especially in my life. And to kind of like set the setting for that moment too. 2 weeks before that, I had sprained my ankle at a invitational meet 1 week before Big Tens. And at the time, people thought I broke my ankle. I just had a severe high ankle sprain, and I wasn't able to compete in Big Tens that same year. But I think internally, I was like, I'm not going to go out this way, especially like I kept having this, I'm going to keep going mentality. I'm going to do whatever I can. And if I have to like limp, I'm going to jump. And I had my regional mark, so I was still able to go to regionals. We basically put an entire cast on my ankle and taped it up like 20 times. I took all the pain killers, everything that I could have, to say, I'm going to give everything I have with this shot. And I was able to qualify for nationals and then perform pretty dang good for myself at nationals. And that was able to get me that All-American spot. And that has just proved to me that resiliency is so much more important than any accolade or anything that you achieve. I think that was just the icing on the cake to be able to receive that standard of being All-American. I think being able to be resilient and overcome such a like giant obstacle for me, other than the other ones previous before that one, being able to have to physically and mentally push myself through that has stayed with me now as just a person in life. It's like, I can be resilient when things like seem really like dark and hard to get through. There is a light at the tunnel if you just keep pushing forward. And that's what's so special about that moment for me.
Mm-hmm. So life after sport, life after Nebraska, can you talk a little bit about that? What the transition out of college athletics has been like for you?
Yes, for sure. To be transparent, I accepted a job at TTI, and I soon realized that it wasn't for me. And I think it was just because I couldn't get away from sports, and I just couldn't get away from that atmosphere. And I was very lucky to get a call from my now boss and also sponsor at the time at Trackville. And he was having a position open at his place. And it all stemmed from he brought his son to a visit at Nebraska, and I met them, and he just said he had a great first impression of me. And I think that just the circling of like life like that is amazing, is that he remembered who I was because of visit and how I talked to them, and he just really appreciated who I was as a person. And this is someone at the time I didn't really know at all, and led me back to Lincoln, Nebraska. So I actually moved to Kansas City to work at TTI. Didn't really like it. Ended up moving back to Lincoln, and now I work remotely in marketing. But he also track field, like I mentioned. That's where I have been able to coach youth athletes and help develop them. And it has led now to the opportunity of coaching at Doane. And at that time too, I'm kind of going all over the place. The main reason why I moved back is because I wanted to continue chasing my high jump dreams, and jumped post collegiately and was trying to hit that US trial mark, which we came close but didn't make. But because of this journey that led me back to Lincoln, I have created such an amazing life for my wife and I in Lincoln, being able to be with the youth and pour into them what has been poured into me. And then, yeah.
So, Mike, now that you've gone from athlete to coach, do you see coaching a little bit differently now that you're on the other side of the fence?
Completely. Yes, I do. It, in a way, I guess. I think I always, in some weird way, because I had such amazing coaches growing up, I kind of saw their mindset going into things, and I bought in. And I think now, being a coach totally on that side, I really see what it means when a coach tells you to do something, or how a coach is trying to convey something to you, or whether that's technical or emotional. Those are two different sides, and how to deal with an athlete too. For me, I was an athlete that bought in and did everything, but there might be an athlete that's not bought in, or there might be an athlete that's not giving 100%. And being able to kind of formulate whatever coaching equation in your brain, or just being able to adapt and speak one-on-one with an athlete, is something that has been totally different. Because as an athlete yourself, you have to take care of yourself.
Right.
But as a coach, now you got to realize not everybody functions the exact same. Not everybody has the same motor. So being able to find out what makes them tick at practice, or what makes them want to be excited. Not to say that it's the coach's responsibility for that, because every athlete has that tick already. But just whatever helps push them to get better is something that I've really learned.
Mm-hmm. I think that was the biggest challenge for me when I transitioned into coaching, and I know you're coaching right now too, is that, and Mike, you touched on it, is when I broke into this industry 14 years ago, I was used to competing a certain way, and I kind of thought that everyone else should be, but it was, you kind of had to read the room to realize that everyone had to be motivated slightly differently. They could, what worked for me might not work for others. And I think for me, that was the biggest challenge that took me just a little bit of time to overcome, as my game as a coach evolved through the years.
100%. Yes, I totally agree.
So looking ahead, kind of touched on it a little bit, but what's next for Mike?
It's a huge question. What's next for me is, I haven't totally closed out my my endeavors of jumping, but right now I am training for a powerlifting meet with some of my buddies. They've always wanted to do one with me, and I wanted to do one with them. So I'm glad that I can do that with them and kind of put my my efforts in something totally new and different. So I'm super excited for that. But I'm just looking in the future. We'll see where coaching takes me. We'll see where we'll just see where this opportunity leads, and if I love it, keep on doing it. Right now we're kind of, I wouldn't say in a waiting season with my wife and I, but I know that we wanted to eventually move back to Kansas City. It's closer to family. But I guess wherever that location ends up being, I see coaching in my future, and I just see giving back to the sport. So,
Mike, one last question. It's the one that we ask all of our guests. what advice can you offer to the young athletes out there, not just them, but their parents as well, who are hopefully looking to compete at the next level? So from high school to college, what message can you give to our listeners about that?
I would say, it goes back to what we talked about earlier about portioning out our priorities in life. And I think first, stemming from what's most important first, and whether that's your spirituality or your love of your family and the health of your mind, body, soul, those things need to take priority first before pushing your athlete or yourself as a parent as the main priority to get them to that level. Because if you are constantly thinking about, we need to get you here, 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 you're going to miss out on all those important moments, things along the way. So to just kind of summarize that, take each moment of this recruiting process or this moment of trying to get your kid to the next level gratefully and humbly, because it is an amazing moment. And it's something that your kid and you as a parent are really going to appreciate looking forward. And you're not going to think so much about the recruiting process, but each moment and each event, each 10-hour drive, you're going to think about those more than the end result. So.
Well, Mike, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to share your story and insights into your career with our audience. We really do appreciate it. We wish you all the best and continued success. And it was great to meet you, albeit virtually, but we were very happy to have this time with you. And that is a wrap on episode 32 of Destination Talk with Paz and Harry. Until next time.